Hello, everybody. Welcome.
Can
Lincoln,
hear
how
you
are you?
fine.
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
I'm doing great. Let's go.
Let us go. Sammy, go ahead.
I'm reporting live from the shareholder meeting, and I'm sitting all the way up front in the middle. So let me know if anyone has a good question I can ask you.
That's awesome. Omar, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. We did it.
We did it. Let's go. Um,
Yeah.
Heard you had this space yesterday. I was in there for a little bit, listening anonymously. How did it go?
Well, nothing really too interesting, mostly just people expressing relief, excitement. I think now today can really about talking about the company and not about this vote, which ended up really being kind of noise and immaterial in the grand scheme of things, despite all the drama. But if it wasn't dramatized, then maybe it could have had a different outcome that wasn't just noise. So great work by everybody. I think this is what we expected would likely happen, but I was surprised to see even the redomestication in Texas passed. And we still need to know about the board reapproval for James Murdoch and Kimball Musk. So we'll get those at the meeting in just a few hours.
Lincoln, how you feeling?
I'm doing really good. Made it to 50. It's all downhill from here, and this is a great birthday present, so I'm really excited.
Happy birthday,
Yeah.
man.
Thank you. So it's this is really exciting though. It's exciting to see everyone come together and be pumped and support Elon, and he felt it clearly. And Omar's post was awesome last night about getting him the options and Elon making Tesla the richest company in the world, and Elon is ready to go. I'm excited. I think it's really I feel optimistic and positive, hopeful going forward.
Nice. Sammy,
But I
how
know
was the
it's not
feeling at
over.
the shareholder meeting?
Oh, I was here last year too. This one's way better. The factory tour was much longer. We saw the Cybertruck production line. It was truly, truly remarkable.
Well, tell us more about it.
The cars get hoisted up onto and go up to the second level where the underplates are fastened on. We watched that process. There seemed to be a lot of people working here who weren't working so hard. So I'm wondering what was up with that. There are a lot of people standing around and not really concentrating. But other than that, it's truly an amazing operation that we have going on here.
Omar, so what are we going to talk about today now that the vote is over?
Good question.
Well, do you have an answer?
No, I'm not sure I do.
Just ended that? Well, today we got the PPI numbers. By the way, I had mentioned before that this week is going to be volatile and unpredictable. And the way that's reflecting today is this space is going to be 1 hour today, only 1 hour, and there won't be an after party today. Okay. I'm trying to figure out some new logistics. So this is what we got right now. So if you have any questions, don't wait. Ask it now. Drew, go ahead.
Hey, so now with the re-ratification of the pay package, I'm wondering how that impacts the judgment in Delaware, along with the lawyers seeking the billions in compensation. I'm wondering if that basically gets strike down and there's like no harm, no foul on that.
Omar?
It's hard to see how the case survives, given that in the disclosures for the new proposal, which was just approved, they really went through and did everything that the Delaware court said that they needed to do. So their whole argument kind of falls flat that there wasn't adequate disclosure because they just provided that disclosure and shareholders approved it by the same margin as in 2018, despite knowing now that the whole thing is going to be realized and there isn't the possibility that it just ends up being worth nothing. So, I mean, I think it speaks pretty loudly. There isn't really a way that this survives the case or appeal. I would hope that Judge McCormick would maybe just dismiss the case now in light of this vote. But if she doesn't, I would think that it would definitely be struck down on appeal.
Ken, what do you think?
Hey, everybody, congratulations. It's a good day, positive news, and I'd like to keep the positivity rolling, but one slight bit of negative news. Okay, where do we go from here? This compensation revote was brought under Section 204 of the Delaware laws, which means it has to go back in front of the judge for approval of the ratification. The basic legal question that's going to be litigated over the next 1 to 2 years is whether or not a statute that was devised to fix procedural issues, corporate issues, can be used to fix non-procedural issues or material issues. The breach of fiduciary duty is a material issue, not a procedural issue. So that's going to be the basic legal question that's going to be in front of the judge. Now, luckily, the judge under Section 205B1 has the option, if she so chooses and wants to set precedent, to view this second vote as an entirely separate issue from the first. Therefore, approving this vote and allowing the first vote to still be invalid and appealed. Now, in reviewing Tesla's response to the attorney fees in that appeal for the $5 billion, I think Tesla is on very, very solid grounds, and there's no way they're going to get $5 million, or $5 billion, I should say. If anything, they're going to get their what's called their lodestar request, which is tens of millions, and that's it.
Omar, what do you think about that?
Well, I agree with Ken. He obviously is much, much more knowledgeable about the details of the legal proceedings than I am. But, there's the legal details, and then there's the reality of this spectacle of a case that the whole country and the whole world is looking at. And the perception among many of these people who voted today, who are not all well versed in, the Delaware Court of Chancery law and, the relevant sort of details that they need to know here to have a solid legal opinion. But they feel like shareholders have spoken very loudly that they want this plan approved. And any sort of procedural delays or issues are really going to be perceived by shareholders as something that is just trying to overturn the voice of shareholders who have spoken very loudly on this issue. So, there's the actual letter of the law and the legal proceedings, and then there's sort of the spirit of the law and what shareholders have kind of expressed here. And I think that makes it very difficult to argue that justice is being served by drawing out or complicating these proceedings.
And what do you think is the likely outcome here?
I'm sorry, did you ask me?
Yeah. What do you think is the likely outcome here at this point?
I think
Now that we have new data, the vote has passed. Elon is probably going to get his comp, right, at this point.
I would agree. And I think the out for the judge, because the shareholders have done such a great job in the court of public opinion and bringing light to this situation, that she takes the opportunity to pass the second, let the first go, knock that attorney's fees down, therefore making the appeal moot, because the the issue has been solved. It's met the judge's requirements. So she's going to get kind of best of both worlds in splitting that baby. So I think she's going to take the opportunity to let this one go, approve it, and strike down their 5 billion and move on.
Danny.
Yeah, we fucking did it, everybody. How you feeling? Woo! Yeah.
Yoda.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm sitting third row. It's really noisy here. Everyone's excited.
Great, thank you. Omar.
Yeah, the redomestication to Texas for Tesla is, it's a pretty shocking development. It's something that is going to be a famous story in the business world. I mean, Tesla, obviously, one of the most watched companies, one of the largest tech companies by market cap out there. And they are often trendsetters. People are going to see Tesla moving out of Delaware, and it's really going to color the conversation around Delaware as a state and a place to incorporate that we haven't really seen before. So I think this is potentially very troubling. Delaware's not a big state. One of the best things they have going for them is that every state, every corporation is domesticated there, and the law firms there, the tax revenue, there's a lot of benefits that sort of flow through to the state. So I don't think that's necessarily going to color this legal case that extensively, but it is kind of a dramatic development that sort of happened in the background here with this news of Tesla moving from Delaware to Texas. It's absolutely going to be something that other business leaders are looking at and thinking about in a different way too, as a result of this story.
Okay, great. As a reminder, this space, actually, we can do 2 hours today on X, but YouTube is going to end in 1 hour, and there won't be an after party tonight. Instead, I will send out an article summarizing the space and a few notes on macroeconomic developments, which I believe are important today to patrons after the space. So instead of the after party today, I'm going to send out a quick summary article to patrons. The link to Patreon is at the top of our screens. Omar, I see in the replies, first of all, do you expect anything new and material from today's shareholder event, now that we know the result of the 2 votes?
Yes. I expect them to give us some new data, drop some new hints. There's definitely a lot of stuff in the pipeline that is very exciting that I think they can tell us about. The Robotaxi event on 8/8, of course. We know that they're developing new, more affordable models. Any more details on that? Updates on FSD, updates on Optimus. I think Elon's going to be in a good mood, and this is going to be a moment to just go over everything that's happening at the company and remind everybody what this is really about. I think people have gotten kind of distracted. They've been focusing so much on these dramas and minor issues that they've lost sight of the bigger picture. And, these annual updates, they just sort of go over the company from top to bottom. They'll give some commentary on different things, mention things, not make some big product announcement, but drop little interesting pieces of information here and there. And then, of course, at the end, there'll be a Q&A. And most of the questions that get asked are stupid. But every once in a while, someone actually asks a good question. And if you're going, don't ask a stupid question, okay? You don't need to ask Elon to, appear on your podcast or sign your t-shirt, all right? Ask him something that we actually need to know, or just sit down and let someone else ask. But yeah, probably most of the questions will be stupid, and we might get one good one.
All right. Do you think we will next move on to discussing a new compensation package for kind of forward-looking compensation package? I know Elon replied to your tweet, which ended up in a regulatory filing as well. You said, okay, now you make it the most valuable company in the world. And he replied, yes. Do you think there will be another comp package going forward?
Well, you know, it gets kind of complicated to give him a comp package as Tesla gets bigger, right? So, I mean, 10% of Tesla is now $50 billion, right? So 5% is like 25 billion, 30 billion, right? I mean, how many years of earnings is that? With gap accounting, you have to take a charge onto earnings. So a compensation package with the same structure as last time may not be as feasible. So one thing you could do is have a new class of super voting shares, and maybe it's not that value in terms of like the actual value of the shares. It's a smaller number of shares, but you say, okay, these shares have super voting ability as long as they're owned by Musk, right? And then as they're transferred, they become common shares. So then they have the same value as a typical share, but as long as Musk is holding them, he then has the super voting ability that gives him the 25% voting control. He said that that's complicated to do as a public company, but maybe if they're domesticating in Texas, they can figure something out. Who knows? Um, so that's one thing. It may be challenging given where Tesla is, but Facebook and Google both have dual share class structures that allow them to have their founders have super voting shares. Ford actually has a dual class of shares that allows the Ford family to control the company, not public shareholders, which is kind of nuts. Um, but so there is kind of a precedent for something like that. The other thing that some people have discussed that I think could be a good idea is to do an investment or an acquisition of XAI, which is a stock for stock deal. So essentially, shares of XAI exchange for shares of Tesla, given that Musk is a holder of XAI. If you exchange those shares for Tesla shares, that could get him potentially to 25%, depending on the valuation of XAI. But I think at this stage they're very much starting out. The chance of success is low. I don't think that really makes sense at this point, but maybe a year or two in the future, assuming XAI is successful, it started to generate some revenue. They've actually built out this massive compute cluster of 100,000 GPUs. Then it becomes this thing where we're not just compensating Musk, we're actually taking ownership of these assets, taking advantage of the training compute, the LLMs, everything the company's doing, bringing it under the fold, but then also at the same time getting Musk to the 25% level that he said he wanted. So there's a few different ways we could do it, but for now, I think today we'll just focus on the 2018 plan, which has been ratified. That, I think, fully diluted gets him to 19% after taxes or 20%, something around there. So 5 or 6% is the delta now, which is much smaller than if this plan hadn't been approved. So it's good
Good,
progress towards getting him to that 25% goal.
good, thank you. Administrative notes. Omar, can you do half hour, 1 hour earlier if we start half hour, 1 hour earlier for next
Sure.
few weeks? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna think about that. I may change the timing of the space to about half hour, 1 hour earlier. We'll see tomorrow. This space is only possible because of our patrons. The link to Patreon is at the top of your screens. Today, we're not going to have an after party. Instead, I will send out an article to patrons with summary notes of the space, as well as some notes on macroeconomic front, which I believe were important this morning. We have our bear in the space. Magic, go ahead.
Hey, just a question for you guys. So assuming that this does get passed and he does get the compensation package because there is another hurdle in Delaware, right? So this is not a legally binding vote. Assuming that it does, how does he pay his tax bill? Have you guys thought about that?
Yeah, he'll probably sell shares, right? I think this is what every CEO does. Every CEO who is compensated with equity, they have to sell a certain percentage to cover the taxes.
Okay, so this is you saying that Elon, one, diluted shareholders, and two, is going to sell. That is correct?
Yeah, probably. I don't know what he's going to do, but that's the probable course of action. Omar?
Well, if he exercises the options, then he'll need to obviously sell shares to cover the exercise price as well as the taxes. And there'd probably be, I think, California state income tax. So, it is going to be sizable. The upside for Tesla, though, is that the $7 billion actually goes back into their cash balance. So it does fortify the balance sheet somewhat. Um, but of course, Musk selling shares would have a negative impact on the stock price short term when that happened. But that could happen anytime between, now and 2028. We don't really know when he's going to choose to exercise.
Yeah. Magic, what do you make of the fact that despite the dilution staying and the probability of more shares sold by Elon increasing, the stock went up today?
I mean, it's pretty obvious that it's just disconnected from fundamentals. Any other stock that would drive it down. So this is a meme stock. This is the original meme stock. That's what it is. So.
Okay, so you think the market reaction is wrong. Omar, what do you make of the fact that the stock price increased, but it didn't increase as much as maybe people had hoped?
Well, I think you have a situation here where this was a 2018 comp plan. The market has long since priced this in terms of the dilution, as they've calculated the fully diluted share count. They've always known this is going to be there. It's not like a surprise of new dilution. The concern had really been that if the plan wasn't reapproved, that they could lose Musk as a CEO, that the company could have an issue in that regard. And I think now that that's over, a little bit of that overhang is lifted on the stock. Of course, you have bears coming in and saying, this doesn't make sense. We're going to short it. This is a meme stock. But really, I think what we're seeing here is a big cloud being lifted over Tesla that has really prevented investors from seeing what's beneath the clouds, which is some of the most game-changing products of the decade. And I think that's what they're going to talk about in the meeting today.
Okay, good. Somebody in YouTube chat warned me that Magic records answers and posts them on X, and I wish more people did that. I wish more people clipped this space and posted on X, which is free marketing for the space. That's one way I think people can support the space, whichever section you like. I don't care. I would say anything I say in the space on X or in personal life as well. So don't hold back. Clip. They make it easy now with the clip function at the bottom and post it on X. We have our real bear on the board now. The true bear, the hater of Elon. Machine, go ahead.
Listen, buddy, I support this space by my existence. Okay, so you take it. And as for Elon and Omar saying the clouds have been lifted, now everyone can peer upon this company and see its true value. Shitty earnings. High
No
PE
cursing.
ratio.
No cursing. No S word, F word. It immediately demonetizes content. I really need to stay on for the last 3 episodes. Each one has been demonetized, and I know you guys don't feel the other side of this thing, but I do. Okay, So please be careful. Bull 2035.
Yeah, just so we're clear, and Magic can invest however he wants, but he's never invested in Tesla ever. So the 10 times run up we've had the last 5 years, he missed out on. And Tesla's PE is in the 40s right now. If Tesla reaccelerates growth into the 20s and 30s, a 40 PE is not unreasonable.
Machine.
First off, I apologize for my swearing. I just got a little emotional there. And you can see why, because you have bulls who just don't understand Tesla's financial position. That PE ratio is based on a one-time accounting tax benefit from last year, which no one values because it means nothing for each quarter going in the future. So
True.
Tesla's really operating at a I don't have to calculate it, right, what it is, but it's above 60, 70 PE ratio right now, trailing 12 months. And if you look at its current last quarter's earnings, it's with GAAP accounting was like 0.5, a little above that. So really operating at a PE ratio right now instantaneously of like 80 to 90. And so it's hard to see it really going much higher until earnings start improving or you truly have Robotaxi level FSD.
Yeah, I agree completely. Tesla is the ultimate stock that really differentiates between people who focus on this near-term PE type of stuff versus longer-term Robotaxi Optimus time potential. If you look at the fact that in the last 12 months, including Q1, so 12 months through March 31, Tesla's free cash flow was only $1 billion. The free cash flow multiple right now on Tesla is like 500x. Okay. So people should be aware of these kind of gap adjustments in the last 12 months. You got to take that out. If it's deferred tax asset valuation adjustment reversal, you have to remove that. Magic, go ahead.
Hey, yeah, I'm glad that you brought up the car business on the financials and the PE.
Yeah, Magic, you gotta give us some credits, man. And I know these bears go on other spaces, Tesla Q Live spaces, and kind of bash on the bulls here, but we're on top of these issues. You know, we don't let nonsense fly in here. You know, either side.
Well, I'm just saying, since every time that somebody comes up and talks about the car business, everybody else points to AI, robo bullshit, whatever it is.
Can't curse.
Sorry.
And Henry, go ahead.
Hey, Yaman, thanks. Omar, I was hoping that maybe you, since you have Elon's attention, you could ask him perhaps to consider this time to utilize a dark pool to sell some of his shares rather than, going on the open market. That was it.
I don't think it really matters ultimately.
Yeah. I don't
What
think it matters either.
determines the stock price is the earnings power of the company. People transacting can have a short-term impact, but ultimately it'll always revert to what the earnings power of the company is.
Exactly. Machine.
Well, that's definitely true in the long term. I think you would have to admit in the short term it's not. And that caused a lot of pressure on some people who didn't like seeing their accounts go down in value that much.
Well,
it's
here's
not
the
talking
thing.
about
You're
traders.
kind of arguing from the both sides of your mouth, right? You're kind of saying, okay, fundamentally, the stock isn't worth $500 billion because of the PE ratio and the free cash flow and everything. But then on the other side, you're like, oh, it's because of Elon's share sales. So which is the machine?
There's short-term and long-term elements in any current day price of the stock. So I don't think those two are mutually exclusive or, contradicting. This stock is, I think what chronic bears miss is that they just have to accept that this company is going to be valued at a higher multiple than they think. They like to compare it to other auto companies, and it's just simply not going to happen. I don't think that's a good trading thesis. But at the same time, that means there is risk that it can dip, like it did a year and a half ago. And amplified by the incessant
selling by the CEO, and then bears probably jumping on, piggybacking that, right, and selling even more, buying puts. I would just say, current day price, like it makes me feel lukewarm right now in the short term, because I feel like it could go down or up a bit. I'm not like robotaxis aren't imminent, so I'm not worried about owning more shares right now because I think there's downside risk. So anyways, I'm just ranting.
Magic.
Hey, so the market cap for Uber is about 150 billion. So what would you guys ascribe the car business? Like, let's come up with a valuation. Let's talk numbers.
Yeah, we've done that before, and Machine and I, we agreed that it's about $200 billion, right, Machine? Only sexy vehicles, though, not Cybertruck, just sexy vehicles.
Okay, so the car business is 200 billion, and in the insane,
just the sexy lines, not Cybertruck.
So okay, well, that's saying that even if you capture the whole market, Uber, if you overtake Uber and get their market cap, which is extremely unlikely, but let's say that means it's still below 500 billion, correct?
No, what you're missing is Robotaxis reduce per mile price and expand TAM. Even Uber talks about this.
So there isn't any additional cost of running it without a driver? I mean, nothing, no consideration?
I mean, let's see what Bull 2035 says. Bull?
Well, I was just going to ask Magic. I get if you're a value investor entirely, you're never going to want to invest in Tesla. Are there any growth companies, or what's the highest growth company he invests in? Because I see a reacceleration coming as other car companies fail because they're not converting like Tesla is. So I see a lot of value in future Tesla. So what does he invest in?
I don't invest in cars.
Yeah, that's fine. We can stick to the Robotaxi discussion. What do you mean by additional cost of running the Robotaxi as opposed to Uber?
How will the vehicle be charged? How are you going to account for people throwing up in it? I mean, a million different things.
Yeah, honestly, I personally don't assign much value to the Robotaxi business. I'm more of an optimist, as Machine is. But maybe you should pose your question to ARK Invest folk.
Wait a minute. Since when?
Oh my God! You are surprised. You are surprised by this statement every single time I say it for last year. Do you have a memory of a bird?
No, I get you. I converted you. Over
and NVIDIA GPU has more memory than you do.
So I remember that. I do remember converting you over to the Optimus side. However, this man or woman, no one knew on TMC forum, which you were, was pimping FSD for so long, and to hear you now say that you basically don't value it for anything is just kind of mind-boggling.
Here's the reason. Here's the difference. Back then, if it had happened in 2020, there was no competition. You could have really taken over the market. But now there's way more that's proven. Uber cost per mile has declined. I've learned that there's a bit of a kind of pushback against AI, everything. So it's different 4 or 5 years later,
So can you imagine back in 2016 that you would still be all in or however invested in this stock, and the thesis would have totally converted, not from EVs and robotaxis to just Optimus, and you still...
it's crazy. That's crazy. Kind of makes me wonder. I mean, I think the difference is, though, I now have 8-9 years of following this company under my belt versus back then 1-2 years. So I think my understanding of the future of the company, I think, is less likely to change as much as it did over the last 5 years. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I just wonder, you say it's crazy, and I'm wondering, are you crazy? You're just putting all your money in a company that maybe in who knows how many years has Optimus bots generating a ton of money, which I do think ultimately will happen. But that's a very rocky road. Are you prepared to go down this rocky road? again?
Yeah, I don't see my 4% as a changing. Danny,
Do you guys think there should be a new package eventually soon? Maybe the 25%?
Danny, we
I
talked
don't
about
know. What do you
this.
think?
Danny, we talked about it. You're not paying attention. Jeremy,
Hey everybody, maybe I'll get laughed off here for saying this, but I've been a Tesla investor since 2019. I have about 500 shares, and it's the only stock I've invested in since I started investing in 2007, where none of the fundamentals matter to me. So Elon inspires my son. He does cool stuff. I enjoy him as a person, as an observer, and it's kind of strange for me because I've invested in Nvidia and Google and Apple over the years and all kinds of tech companies, and I do those and I invest in those companies for a return. And I care about a return and multiples and all these fundamentals you're talking about and the products and what they're going to do in the market. But for Tesla, it's completely different the way that I think about that company and my investment. And I just want to support Elon, and that's why I invest and why I have about 500 shares.
Machine.
Well, I just want to say I know Danny's very worried about the package, and I just want to let him know that I gave his mom a package last night.
Danny. Omar, what do you think about all this? Are you prepared
I mean,
to stick it
you
out
know,
with Tesla for another few years for Optimus?
I mean, I'm just like, shocked at the conversation really that so few people, really see this story for what it is. It is just so myopic. Oh my God, their earnings. Yeah. I mean, compared to who? Look at the competition. They don't have any earnings. Who else is making money as a pure EV play in the world? Nobody. They have outstanding earnings in that regard. And this is the future of the automobile industry. People who have tried these vehicles, who've lived with them, can see this is how all cars are going to work in the future. They know how to build these vehicles of the future, the infrastructure that goes along with it, the batteries. That is a huge predictor of future earnings. These other companies that have earnings today, their sources of earnings are going obsolete. And, this latest generation of products they have is honestly phenomenal. The new Model 3 Performance I got in the Cybertruck. I think this business has a ton of earnings potential, even for the core auto business, especially as rates come down.
Sorry about that. Let's continue.
Yeah, so right. So I was just saying, you look at this company, they have the most advanced self-driving technology in the world right now. I don't think it's really appreciated. This thing is driving me around hands-free. I think starting tomorrow it's going to be rolled out to more people. You look at Waymo and its reliance on mapping, it is not anything close to what they're doing with pure vision self-driving. And to sort of dismiss it as, oh, they never solve self-driving, they're never going to solve Optimus, I think is completely missing the fact that there's hundreds of thousands of people now using this technology to get around and do most of their driving. And they can just push a button and their car starts driving hands-free. I mean, this is just an incredible demonstration of AI with reliability far exceeding anything else we've seen in the field. I mean, imagine if ChatGPT was this reliable. So I think people have really forgotten the Tesla story. We're really seeing the birth of a new Apple or a new Google here. This is a company that I think is going to add trillions of dollars to its market cap over the next few years as a likely scenario. So I'm a buyer here. And that's why it doesn't really matter to me if Elon sells on the open market or not, because if I can get a discount and continue to add more shares, I think every dollar I put in could be, $2
Yeah,
or $3 or maybe $10.
man, it is amazing to me. Thank you, Omar. But just administratively, I picked this up from Sierra, by the way. On an administrative note, it's amazing to me how fast we recovered from the interruption. We had several hundred people in here, and we again have several hundred people in here within 2 minutes. People just knew exactly what to do, you know? And it happened because I had a notification about one of my different accounts. And when you click on that, it takes you to different, it ends the space. And YouTube didn't even glitch for even a second. I immediately started the space, and everyone knew immediately it's coming again. And the speakers knew to speak, request to speak right away. It's very impressive how far this space has come over the last year or two. Machine, we have a question for you, by the way. Ranger the Dog yesterday asked, since you believe Robotaxis and Optimus are only a couple years away, what is your price target for the company?
Well, I didn't say that robo-taxis in volume is happening like super soon. Like I do think they'll start having something capable in some geographic location, in 6 months to a year. But exactly when that's going to ramp volume wise, I think it's going to take a few years at least. But either way, if that process does start, and similarly, if the process of using Optimus in industrial settings does start and incurring some revenue, then at that point, the market will start pricing in, I believe, some future growth on those sectors. So at that point, I would say that, price target then, let's say over the next 3 to 4 years, I do think you will probably see, I'd have to write it out, 1 to 2 trillion for sure, market cap. At least 1 trillion. So you'll be going
At least 1 trillion by when?
3 years from now, I would say.
I'll bet you on that.
And what are you betting?
It's going to be 1 trillion market cap. Let's say this is June 2024 by the end of 2026.
I think that's possible. So I'm not really.
Okay.
What about
if
one
you
and
don't
a
want
half?
to take that passive bet,
$600.
Ranger asked, what? 600 what? What do you mean?
$600. So like approximately 1.5 trillion.
Don't change the bet.
I'm
Did
changing
you get your negotiating tactics from Meta? Ranger the Dog asked, what is your price target for 2029? He wants to compare.
Well, I don't know. I haven't written it out recently.
Do you ever think beyond more than 1 month?
No. I literally modeled a few months ago out the next few years in terms of their automotive and energy, and those numbers are not that compelling. So that's not really going to uplift the price target at all. So it really just comes down to Robotaxi and Optimus. And I haven't modeled out expectations for those volume ramps that we've talked about and made bets, but I haven't done the math. There's so many assumptions going on there. But if you, so I don't know. I have to get back to me.
Okay. Omar, do you have a price target in mind for 2029?
Well, I mean, Tesla is one of those companies where the potential upside is really something that you can't imagine, right? I mean, I think this could be, if they are able to execute on things that we discuss in this space, it could be a $10 trillion company. If you're talking about a product like a general purpose humanoid robot that really has performance that's equivalent to a human, and, I fully expect this to take 10 years or more to be really fully realized. But if you've really got a product like a low cost, mass produced humanoid robot that can do tasks at a human level proficiency, a general range of tasks, I mean, what does the economy look like then? Our GDP of the world would probably be really several times larger than today. You could see cities and buildings go up, you know, at the flip of a switch, with workers just working 24 hours super efficiently, building things, changing things. You could have tons of new houses, roads built. It would be a very different economy than we know today. So I'm not sure I can really imagine what that really looks like. But that's kind of what attracts me to Tesla. It's not necessarily that, I'm hoping I'm going to get this kind of return, but the technology just excites me that this is the kind of thing that they're thinking about and that they're trying to build. And i- it's kind of like the early days of the computer, when the computer first came to the market, and people couldn't really imagine all the things that computers would be used for. But if you were focusing on really what the earnings were on, let's say, the first Macintosh or the Commodore or some IBM PC that was sold back then, you might have missed the bigger picture of really what computers would do to the world.
Uzi. Your connect. Yeah, no, you
Sorry,
can't. Your connection is really bad. CAI. Alexander, go.
Yeah, hi. Why do you think they don't update FSD features outside US?
They're working on it.
It's not approved. It's not regulatory approval. You need regulatory approval, need more training. They're focused on US right
Okay.
Well, actually, they're really working hard on getting it out to additional countries before the end of the year.
Well, I mean, like my Model 3 still phantom brakes for like bridges and stuff.
Yeah, the new software should fix that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope you guys get it soon.
Machine, what do you make of today's PPI data? The yields are coming down. What do you think that means for growth companies?
I've been out all morning, work, trail run, Popeyes, which I'm eating right now, by the way. Very good. Happy birthday, 51st birthday to Popeyes, by the way, yesterday. So such an important company. The people, I haven't noticed much more inflation in Popeyes. So maybe
I was at Valley Fair the other day at the food court, and I saw they had a new Popeyes there. I was like, oh, I thought of you.
That's what I've always wanted in life, is everyone to think of me when they see a Popeyes.
Omar, the meeting starts in about half hour, I think, right?
Yeah, but it's going to be pretty boring at the beginning. They're going to have the nuns come up and they're going to have a bunch of, proposals read, and it's going to be really incredibly boring. So we could even maybe keep it on for the beginning portion.
Okay. The X space will continue, but you two folks will need to come to X space in about 10 minutes. Machine.
Are you going?
I'm out of town. Yeah, if people are, these meetings are a lot of fun, but even if you don't make it to the shareholder meeting or another event hosted by Tesla, there's always ancillary events. I highly recommend people to come to Austin, check out the other events. Luce? Machine.
I just wanted to say that Tesla is spending 10 billion a year on AI hardware. And without that spending, the revenue would be very, very different. And so it's kind of useless to look at the revenue right now.
Machine.
Well, there's truth to that. I agree with that. If they weren't spending so much, obviously their financials would look better. It's always been the case with startups or growing companies. So that is important to keep in mind. And the other thing to keep in mind is don't go to Austin. It's terribly overrated. Hot, sweaty, no one showers, no one goes outside. And if you go look online at
that is not true. The only person that I met in my life who doesn't shower every day is from California, where you are, not Texas.
All I can say is it's verifiable online when people ask, what is the most overrated American city? Hands down, people vote for Austin as most overrated. And I can see why. It's just the city
That's not
in
true.
the middle.
Listen, we don't.
That is
we
definitely
don't. We
true.
don't let FUD. We don't let FUD in this space. Do you have anything useful to say?
That is very useful. I'm trying to save people from going to a place with ugly people.
Oh my God, you're so wrong. Anyway, Omar, can you elaborate on Elon Musk's reply to you saying yes when you asked? Now you have to make Tesla the most valuable company on earth, which ended up in a Schedule 14A filing with it.
Well, I think now that it's in an SEC filing, it's legally binding, so he has to do it. But I think Elon and I both believe that what the Tesla team has developed here with the FSD12 system is incredibly unique. It is, I think, the most powerful model in the world for having a computer move through the physical world on its own and knowing how to navigate it on streets in the case of FSD. So it's really an incredible demonstration of reliability. They've really taken reliability of this model further than um, anything that we've ever seen. And you look at, Waymo, for example, having issues where they're hitting a pole because the HD map boundary was wrong. Clearly, they have all the sensing, they have LiDAR, they have vision all over the place, and they can't even see this pole, right? Because the map is wrong. So it really makes you think, okay, like what is the power of the underlying model without all these sort of hints it's getting from the map? And I think this technology is just very, very valuable. I've just really been enjoying using it. And it's really turning the point here now with this hands-free release, which I expect to start going out to more people tomorrow, where your average person can just get it. They sit in the car, oh, I press this button and I can let go of the wheel. I'm hands-free. And I can, watch the road, but still let the car handle most of the driving. And it can do it smoothly and comfortably. They're really at a turning point here. Yes, it may not be, tomorrow when they get a Robotaxi out. I think probably, maybe 2025 or 2026. we might see driverless rides actually start happening in a general way. But in the meantime, there's really this incredibly disruptive product you can buy where it's a really fast, fun car. It's awesome. And on top of that, you push one button and it does the driving for you. It's going to be able to driverlessly pull out of a parking spot and come to you and go park itself. And it's pretty amazing. You know, you can be on a busy street and it's just parking itself. There's people walking by. It just, make sure to be cautious of them, doesn't hit them, and just parks in the spot, parallel parks on a busy street. So they've really got something special here. And I think it's super underappreciated by the market. I mean, this is in many ways more impressive to me than ChatGPT. I can count on it more than ChatGPT. And I think the revenue is actually greater than ChatGPT, and the earnings are greater than ChatGPT. So it really is kind of one of the most underrated AI projects in the world, I think. Like, it's crazy to me that Tesla doesn't have $1 trillion valuation right now. I think if the market really understood how unique this is on a technical level, then it would be. But I think that it's going to start to become increasingly obvious through the rest of this year. They're really just taking off in terms of miles per intervention. Almost every drive now is a zero intervention drive.
Magic.
Hey, speaking about AI companies and chips, since there's been some sort of discussion around what happened with the chips that were diverted to XAI. Yaman, do you want to comment in terms of like, should they have at least had that as a related party disclosure? Let's just say if it's a swap, like what's going on? Worst case embezzlement. What are you guys thinking?
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't consider it to be embezzlement. Both companies took delivery of the 12,000 H100s and they both paid for the chips with their own funds, but Tesla just wasn't ready to take delivery yet. So they had XAI take delivery first and Tesla took delivery later. These are usually sort of take or pay contracts. So you have to take them or you have to pay for them anyway. So it was actually kind of helpful to Tesla, I think, that they were able to take them and have their delivery come in once the new Texas facility is ready. So, yeah, I think both companies are really growing compute at an amazing level. Tesla obviously has their Dojo training supercomputer, which has really kind of an incredible novel architecture. The first system on a wafer, where you have 25 system on a chips all on the same wafer with really high bandwidth interconnect between the chips. Like, they're not messing around here. They're really trying interesting things. They're trying to one up NVIDIA, right? And that's just one little startup within the business. It's so underappreciated. Their silicon team is like, I think, one of the top AI silicon teams in the world with Pete Bannon. And like, you look at what the Apple Silicon is doing, they're doing like 32 tops or something like that on the latest M4s. And Hardware 3 back in 2019 was doing 144 tops, two SoCs with 72 tops each. So, these are really incredibly powerful chips they've been packing into their car for years and years now.
All right. Okay. Just a quick announcement. I'm ending YouTube simultaneous streaming. Today is only 1 hour for YouTube. We're going to continue on X Space for another hour. If you're on YouTube, please head over to the X Space. Majid.
Hey, so is there any economic